A very good evening to you all and welcome to the English News Bulletin here on Rwanda Television. My name is Olive Nete. We'll begin on this story that says that the genocide perpetrator, Dr. Eugene Rwamucyo, has been sentenced to 27 years in prison by a Paris court for his crimes during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Moving ahead to health matters, dermatologists warn that untreated psoriasis, a chronic inflammatory skin condition, can lead to serious health complications, including heart disease, joint damage, and other chronic illnesses that may ultimately become life-threatening. Those living with psoriasis often face additional challenges such as social stigma, difficulty accessing affordable treatment, and limited medication availability in pharmacies. We have more.
A lady we named Mary for privacy reasons is a 30-year-old living in the vicinities of Kigali City. She has battled psoriasis for 3 years. Initially, she ignored her symptoms, but as the disease progressed, she sought medical treatment. There were skin rashes that sometimes covered my body. At first, I thought it was just a simple rash. When it started, it would itch and I would scratch myself, which often gave me a fever. Initially, it only appeared on my body and head, so since it wasn't on my arms, legs, or face, I didn't take it seriously or go to the hospital. But once it spread to those areas, I rushed to seek medical help. Pierre Celestin Habiyaremye, who has endured psoriasis for over 2 decades, initially tried traditional medicine without success before turning to dermatologists who diagnosed his condition and helped him manage it to prevent severe complications.
It started when I was in high school and got worse when I was at university. After that, I went to a dermatologist who diagnosed my condition and explained to me more about it, and then I started treatment.
Psoriasis, classified as an uncommunicable disease, is a painful, disfiguring, and debilitating illness with no cure. It affects patients' quality of life and is most common among people aged 20 to 69. While its exact cause remains unknown, research suggests it may be genetically inherited or autoimmune in nature. Dr. Uwajeni Amani Alice, a dermatologist, describes the condition's symptoms.
Clinically, it presents as scales. The body presents some color change, and you see that the lesions are a bit elevated. So compared to the normal skin, you find that there is a bit of elevation. So there are changes you see, plus color change, plus some scaling. Scaling is like skin peeling. So this can present either on the scalp, on the entire skin, but it can also affect the joint. Yes, there are medicine which we are using, but they don't cure the disease. They are just to improve the rash or the episode, but expecting to reappear another time. Already, this is a chronic disease, so you are engaging someone to expenses which are going to be forever and ever.
Patients with psoriasis face numerous challenges, including social stigma, as many believe the disease is contagious, and limited access to costly medication in local pharmacies. Pierre Celestin, founder of the Rwanda Psoriasis and Psoriatic Arthritis Association, speaks about these obstacles and their impact on those affected.
The first challenge is accepting that you have a chronic illness, and also for those you live with to come to terms with it. Without medication, the skin becomes severely damaged and begins peeling. Another major challenge is the cost of medicines. For instance, one of the medications I use costs me 120 Rwandan francs. You can imagine that not everyone can afford that kind of money.
Dr. Uwajeni Amani Alice, an expert in dermatology, sees psoriasis cases regularly and stresses the need for early diagnosis and treatment to prevent severe complications.
One of the complications which we have already mentioned is the depression. So with the disease which does not cure at any time of life, you expect that this person is living with a chronic disease. They might get depression. Depression will depend one person to another. Apart from that, since the disease can affect the joint, you might have mobility limitation, working limitation, and even dairy production can be affected. The disease can also be complicated or even a manifestation of the same disease, which we can call either as a complication or the same manifestation with cardiovascular diseases, which can affect of even some blood flow, since they can be obstructed by the lipids and cholesterol in the blood vessels.
Although there is no official data on psoriasis cases in Rwanda, the World Health Organization notes that up to 34.7% of individuals with psoriasis may develop psoriatic arthritis, leading to joint deformities and disability. Globally, October 29th is recognized as International Psoriasis Day.
To more news, 5 billion Rwandan francs are going to be invested in water supply chain projects in Ruhango district, Southern Province. This is as citizens, various sectors of this district are burdened to long journeys to fetch water. Prince Manzi with more.
Every citizen you meet in Kinihira sector in the Ruhango district stress on how they are burdened with the long distance they have to walk to fetch water, and this is a hindrance to their development. We fetch in the valleys, there are water sources down there, and we also wait on the rain, but simply it is hard. It is not only in Kinihira, but also in other regions of Ruhango. In Hongwe sector, there's a tap used by residents of 2 cells. Here, the water issue is big. They gave us this tap for getting fresh water, but we're used to fetch in the swamps. But again, these taps are not sustainable. And you find 1 week it is working and the next is not. That is the life we are living in. The Ruhango District Administration affirms that projects are in place to facilitate water supply to citizens. Here include the 77-kilometer Ngomero Kinihira water pipe, the 76-kilometer Manga Ruhango Ntongwe, which already started, the 26-kilometer Saruheshi Ruhango Geramana water pipe, and the Hyogwe Mayaga water pipe that is going to be renovated and added on more 109 kilometers. The mayor of Ruhango district, Valens Habarurema, affirms that in this 2024-2025 financial year, water supply chain projects worth 5 billion Rwandan francs will be initiated.
Hari kandi n'umuyoboro urimo wubakwa no
There is also a water pipe being built of Saruheshi, Ruhango and Geramana, which is 26 kilometers long, and will supply water to 5,000 homes. As the city grows, we have to increase such projects. I can reveal that in 2024-2025 financial year, there are water supply chain projects worth 5 billion Rwanda francs that will be initiated, and residents lacking water will be answered. Currently, the water supply rate in Ruhango district is on 80.2%.
Thank you, Prince, for the detailed reports. Now moving ahead, the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement engaged with students of the University of Rwanda, Rukara campus on Rwanda's unity and resilience. This was part of the month-long engagement by the ministry that is coming to an end this week. Here is what some of the students say they learned.
Our role as young people in ensuring sustainable unity and resilience is a continuous journey of us teaching our colleagues and young ones so that they grow up without any genocidal ideologies or divisionism. We ought to encourage each other in the face of challenges and also support families of survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi as we strive to actively be a part of the collective efforts to develop our country. I would encourage young people to continuously look out for misleading people using social media and avoid them. We should stick to good values of being patriotic and helpful to each other.
Secretary in the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement called on to students to remember and consider that Rwanda's future is in the hands of young people and are values that must be deeply noted in us all.
Our nation is counting on all of us. We must therefore collectively work together to defend it against the traitors, who are very many today, by reinforcing our common values of peace, unity, and patriotism.
Moving ahead to more news, women, especially those with disabilities, are often at the forefront of suffering the impacts of climate change, such as natural disasters and extreme heat. This is largely due to the lack of knowledge among those who are supposed to support them, as well as insufficient data on their numbers for proper assistance. Sola Sandra with more.
Research conducted by the Rwandan Organization of Women with Disability highlights that climate change continues to have several effects on women with disabilities. After disaster, we found out that those who are affected are not followed up to know how they are doing, and this making it difficult for anyone to assist them. Although Rwanda has committed to protecting people with disability affected by climate change, the representation of women with disability remains low. Some women affected by climate change express their experiences in these words. My house collapsed due to heavy rainfall, and seeing that it could affect me too, I went to request a loan from a cooperative to rebuild it. But repaying that money has been difficult to me, and I have no way to get it. Please help me to advocate for this. During sunny periods, it becomes very hard to do my work because when the sun comes out, I have to look for a shaded place since the sun is harmful to my skin. In discussions organized by the Rwanda Organization of Women with Disabilities, they emphasized that to first identify the number and locations to ensure specialized support during and after disaster. We need data for those who are affected by climate change to know their numbers and provide assistance, because without this information, it becomes challenging to help. One of the key recommendations was to revise the law governing people with disabilities during such times, as well as to establish a specific budget to mitigate the impact on women, especially those with disabilities, from disaster. Sola Sandra Tumkund, RTV News.
Thank you, Sola, for the details. Now to Rwanda's financial sector. Professionals in this sector believe that efforts should be intensified to encourage people to save, as this could help the country achieve a saving rate of 30% of the annual gross domestic product. This would also assist the private sector in accessing loans at lower interest rates. Enora Gladys with more.
Those involved in the agricultural value chain report difficulties in obtaining loans with low interest rates, and they are not given sufficient grace periods for long-term loans.
These crops grow in a period of 3 months, which requires us to store more for the future use and be able to reduce prices for consumers and give a good price to the farmers to be able to get the farm back. You may find that someone can make an investment and wait for 2 years without making returns on the investment, which is a big problem since in the 2 years, the interest on the loan acquired keeps increasing. When you look at the accumulation of added value on different crops, they should invest in it and build an industry that solves the problem for a long time.
To facilitate lower loan interest rates for customers approaching financial institutions, the country needs a higher savings rate relative to its gross domestic product. The World Bank representative in Rwanda explains how this could enable Rwanda to have an economy supported by the private sector.
Maintaining Rwanda's development trajectory and achieving the goals outlined in Rwanda's Vision 2050 will require increased efforts to shift the drivers of economic growth towards a private investment-led model, given the country's shrinking fiscal space. Rwanda faces a challenge in mobilizing domestic savings, critical for private sector investment, and to reduce the country's vulnerability to diminishing external finance. While financial inclusion has risen sharply with significant transitions from informal to formal savings methods, Rwanda's savings rate remains low compared to regional and aspirational peers.
On the other hand, those responsible for financial institutions assert that there are mechanisms in place to make saving easier for many without being burdensome.
I think we've seen in other markets things like gamification of savings, save as you pay or save as you earn. things that are seamless. You don't feel that you're saving, yet you're actually saving. So I think we've not been very innovative and creative in designing savings products, but we are catching up slowly. And I think in the next couple of years, not months, we'll be able to have products that are attractive to the youth, and they'll be saving without even realizing that they're saving and supporting the economy.
Ejo Heza is a savings scheme that helps people in savings. From 2018 to 2024, it has 3,400 members who have opened 4 million accounts. Gaspar Bayigane, the head of Ejo Heza in Rwanda Social Security Board, states that these savings are being invested to generate additional returns.
Yeah, Ejo Heza savings are invested through the Rwanda National Investment Trust, RNIT, which invest in various assets, mostly domestic assets. So money is invested mostly in treasury bonds, mostly, but also in fixed-term deposits in local banks. And we have investment that can reach up to 12% compound interest, which makes the savings continue to grow with time.
In 2024, the national savings rate was at 12.5% relative to the national gross domestic product, while the goal is to reach at least 26% by 2029. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
The story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin. Thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. On behalf of the technical and news production team, we wish you a productive week ahead.